Well, good morning. How's everybody? You enjoying this? Great. Okay, how many people have heard of the National Weight Control Registry? Anyone here in the National Weight Control Registry? A few. So what I want to do today is tell you what we've learned from this project that has been going on for quite some time now. It seemed like a very simple idea when I started this with my colleague, Dr. Rena Wing. And the idea was, let's see if we can find people who have been successful in losing weight, and let's see what they did. Seemed pretty reasonable, right? Okay, we have done that, and we're now following about 10,000 of these people, and we've been following them for a long time. So what I want to do in my time this morning is tell you what we've learned over these many years from the National Weight Control Registry, but I also want to tell you how we've used that at our center in Colorado to really improve our weight management programs. And in the end, I'm going to tell you some kind of strange things that have happened that have led us in a little bit different direction on weight loss. Let's see if I can do this. Here we go. So what can we learn from our National Weight Control Registry participants? And they refer to themselves as successful losers. So what can we learn from our successful losers? And what I'm going to talk about is how to lose weight, because there's a lot of focus right now on how to lose weight. And what I'm going to try to tell you is that's really not where we should be talking about at all. That's one of the most uninteresting parts of this, how to keep weight off. Now we're getting to something that's much more interesting and much more of a challenge. We're very good at producing weight loss. We're not so good at keeping it off, and I think we've learned a lot from this group about why that is. And in particular, I'm going to talk about the importance of movement, okay? Movement is critical. People say, do I have to exercise to lose weight? And the answer is no. No, you don't have to exercise to lose weight. You only have to exercise if you want to keep it off. And then I'm going to talk about mindset. In the past few years, what I've learned is the really interesting thing that helps with behavior change happens between the ears. So those are the things that I'm going to talk about this morning. National Weight Control Registry is a project started several years ago, again by Dr. Rena Wing and myself. We started it in 1994. This is literally a project that started over a beer. We were sitting over a beer and we were saying, you know, you read in the media, nobody's successful at weight loss. I bet there are people that are successful. And we kind of looked at each other and said, well, that's a pretty good idea. And that was the start of the National Weight Control Registry. So the perceptions at that time in 1994 was that it's very difficult to achieve weight loss. It was very, very rare. And what we set out to do, and here's my colleague, Dr. Wing, who's at Brown University, we simply said, let's see if there are people out there who succeed. And what we found is there are a lot of people who succeed. Now, we're following 10,000, and people ask me, well, how many are out there? I don't know. Maybe we've got every single one who's succeeded. Maybe 10,000 is the number. Maybe there's 100,000. So what we can't tell from our study are how many are out there. We can't tell if we have a representative sample or not. What we can tell is we have a lot of people who have succeeded. And I think we can learn a lot from them. And I'll tell you right up front, not everybody does it the same. There's a lot of variation in how they do it. But there are some really interesting similarities that I think can help us as we go forward. So who are they? Well, they tend to be in their mid-40s. They tend to be about 78% women. Looking at this audience, I'd say it tracks pretty well here. I'd say maybe 78, 80% of this audience is women. It's not that men don't need to lose weight. It's simply they don't know they need to lose weight. Women know they need to lose weight, right? So women are the ones seeking treatment. These are mostly Caucasian, and they're mostly married. Now, people ask us, does that mean that minorities aren't succeeding? And we don't know the answer to that. Maybe they're not succeeding as much. Maybe we're simply not capturing them. It makes sense to me that I think Caucasian women in their 40s is a group that's been working at this for a long time. So maybe it's not too surprising that we're beginning to see success in that group. But we really don't know. We really don't know if some of these other groups are succeeding, and we're still reaching out, and the registry is growing every single day. So maybe we'll be able to answer that question in the future. So how much weight did they lose? On average, 72 pounds. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. With lifestyle weight loss, they're keeping off 72 pounds. And to get in the registry, you must have maintained at least a 30-pound weight loss for at least a year. That's the minimum criteria. Okay? And you can see that on average, these people have maintained their weight loss for about 6 years. And again, we've got people who have kept it off a year. We've got people who have kept it off 30 years. So that's the beauty of this database, is we have a range of people. So they've really gone from an average BMI of almost 37 to an average BMI of 25. Now, 25 is not super lean, right? It's right the upper limit of normal. So these people aren't going to super lean people, but the average BMI in the people in the registry now is 25, which is a pretty good BMI, considering that it started almost at 37. How did they lose the weight? Well, we thought going into this, boy, we're going to discover the right way to lose weight, and we're going to make $1 zillion. We'll write a book, and we'll figure it out, and we'll show people how to succeed. Well, what we found is that people used every plan imaginable. They used the cabbage soup diet. They used the eat green food diet, right and left. And what we found is the diet they used did not really predict who was going to be in the registry. All over the map, they used diets that we experts would say are reasonable diets. They used diets that we would say, oh my God, what were you thinking? And yet they got the weight off. So first of all, almost no similarity, with one exception. They used both diet and exercise to lose weight. Now, I'm going to tell you throughout, and I'm going to say this several times because it's an important message. You don't have to exercise to lose weight. You have to exercise to keep weight off. Diet is driving weight loss. You can lose weight with exercise, and I'll talk a little bit about that later on. But in most cases, diet is driving weight loss. Exercise comes into play in keeping it off. So they use both diet and exercise to lose weight. So interestingly now, the science is backing that up. There are still studies every day saying, oh, this low-carb diet, no low-fat diet, no high-protein diet. Well, studies like this, in which they looked at different diets over 6 months, they carefully controlled the behavior, and what they found, and you can see the composition of the diet over here in protein, fat and protein. The composition of the diet made no difference in how much weight they lost when they made sure that everybody sticks to that, okay? So you'll see every week in the literature, this diet is better than that diet, but carefully controlled studies like this. There was recently a meta-analysis, which is pulling the whole literature together, and they looked at all these different diets out there, and they concluded, when you look at all the studies, weight loss was not significantly different between any of the diets, okay? What does that mean? Simply means whatever diet you stick with will work for weight loss. So you can go into the bookstore, buy any diet you want, follow it, I guarantee you will lose weight. But losing weight is not the challenging part, okay? So you can lose on any diet. And in fact, here's an interesting study out of California where they showed the individual weight loss. Each point is a weight loss on the different diets. Now look, on every diet, there were people over to the left that did really well. On each diet, there were people that gained weight. Okay, what's that about? So you see, going on a diet, you can get any outcome. What's that related to? It's simply related to compliance. People who complied with the diet lost weight. People who didn't lose weight. Shocking, right? Who knew? So any diet you stick with will help you lose weight. But it's not going to be true in keeping weight off. Here's where we begin to find a lot of similarities in how they're keeping their weight off. So what I'm going to tell you is when we started out, probably the first 20 years, we were really looking in these folks at what they do. And I'm going to tell you what we learned about what they do. But I'll tell you also, the interesting part to us right now is not what they do, because I'll tell you what they do, but it's not going to shock you. I'm not going to give you any behavior that you're going to say, oh my God, I had no idea. What's really interesting is how they do it. And at the end, I'm going to tell you where we're going and what we're learning, not about what to do, but about how they can continue doing it, okay? Based on the National Weight Control Registry project, we've rethought how we think about losing weight. When I first started this a long time ago, literally the mindset was go and lose weight, get the weight off, and you're cured. You're fine. That's the end of it, okay? We saw how that worked, not very well. Now, the next strategy was, well, you have to go on a diet and go on a diet forever. Think about it. Who's going to go on a diet forever? You get hungry, right? You can't do it forever. And so the way we think about it now is that weight loss, or losing weight, is at least two parts. One is getting the weight off, but the other is maintaining the weight. If you're not getting to a lifestyle that you can live forever, you're not going to keep the weight off. So literally, I think there are so many different ways to lose weight. And I think all of them, you say, oh, is this diet harmful or that harmful? If you're losing weight, weight loss on health trumps just about everything else. If you're losing weight, your health is improving, okay? But keeping it off is a whole different ballgame. And that's where I think there aren't so many differences in how to keep it off. Here's where I think there are a lot of similarities, some differences, but a lot of similarities. So what we talk about is phase 1 is getting the weight off, and phase 2 is keeping it off. And strategies that work for keeping weight off may not be the best for losing weight may not be the best strategies for keeping it off. So think of two strategies. Getting it off, boom. And then keeping it off, you may have to do different strategies. Now, there's probably also a transition, because nobody ever wants to be in weight loss maintenance, right? We use that word, and people say, oh, no, I want to lose 5 more pounds or 10 more pounds. So we have to be careful with that. But you can't lose weight forever. I've seen people that have been on a diet since 1965. It's like, come on, that doesn't work. You got to find a way to live your life forever. So losing weight is a temporary thing. Keeping weight off is a forever thing. So that's the way we think about treating obesity. So why is it so hard to keep weight off? Losing weight, yeah, it's hard. You have to eat less, but people are really pretty successful at losing weight. And remember the slide before with all the different diets. What I didn't point out is whatever the diet was they lost weight on, they tended to regain over the next couple of years. So why is it so hard? Well, it's so hard because you're fighting both your biology and your environment. So you have to engage in a level of behavior that overcomes these biological and environmental pressures to regain weight. So it's hard, and we tell people in our programs, yeah, it's hard. Being obese is hard. Choose your hard. Where are you going to choose your hard? It's going to be hard. It's not going to be easy. If anybody tells you that losing weight and keeping it off is easy, run the other way. It's very hard, but what I truly believe, and we see it over and over, is people can succeed, and they will tell you that life is better after they succeed. So what do I mean by fighting biology and the environment? We actually have measured this. So we have what we call a whole room calorimeter. It's a room you can stay in for 24 hours, and it measures your energy expenditure. So if you want to come visit us, we'll put you up for free in this room. It's a beautiful little, like a prison cell. But what it does is to measure how many calories you burn. And so over the years, we've looked at how many calories people burn before they lose weight and after they lose weight. And what happens as you lose weight, what happens? Your body's smaller. You need less energy. So guess what? Your energy expenditure goes down. So we estimate that if you were going to lose 10%, let's say this would equal 20 to 30 pounds, your energy expenditure is going to go down 170 to 250 calories a day. That means you require that much less energy after weight loss, okay? We call that the energy gap. You have to make that gap up some way, right? Either by eating less or exercising more. If you go to 20%, you can see it could be nearly 500 calories a day. So your body is working against you. in weight loss. And this is natural. This is physiology. You eat less, your body weight goes down, your energy expenditure goes down. But that presents a problem in keeping the weight off because you've got to deal with that gap. If you lose weight and your now energy expenditure is 250 calories a day less and you go back to eating the way you did before, what's going to happen? Go right back up to your weight. So what that allows us to do, the energy gap allows us to individualize a prescription for keeping it off. So we use that gap and we help people look at behavior changes that overcome that biology. And what I'm going to tell you, the more you fill that gap with physical activity, the more likely you are to be successful. And we'll hit this theme again. So what do these people in the National Weight Control Registry do? Well, in general, they're still eating a low-calorie diet. Even in this era of carbs are the bad guy and sugar's the bad guy, these people tell us they're eating about 26% of calories from fat. I think people underestimate, so they're probably eating a relatively low-fat diet. But they are watching total calories as well. Now, we measure their food intake, and I'm not a big fan of food intake. I don't think self-reported intake means very much, not because people lie, simply because it's very hard to measure what you eat. I'll guarantee you they're not eating 1,300 calories, okay? So I wouldn't pay much attention to that. But I still think that they're eating largely a low-fat diet. Now, if I were going to make Americans fat, if I were getting paid to make people fat, 3 things I would do. I would reduce their physical activity, I would give them a high-fat diet, and I would add sugar on top of that. The American diet, right? It's been done, and it's been proven to work. So these people are watching fat. They're also watching portion size and other kinds of things. So it's not just fat, they're watching total calories. Here's the second thing they're doing. They're engaging in a very high level of physical activity. I believe this is the behavior that allows them to overcome the biological reduction in energy expenditure. So if your energy expenditure is going to go down, you can eat less. Eating less is very, very hard. Our brains are so focused on eating that telling you to eat less is hard. Now, telling you to exercise isn't easy, but in the long run, I think it's easier to overcome biology with exercise than food intake. And I'll show you in a second that a big reason that I think these people do so much exercise, it's overcoming the biology, and it's now allowing them to eat an amount of calories a day. It may not be everything they want, but they aren't food deprived all day long. So on average, these people are doing about an hour a day of physical activity. Now, it's really interesting. When I talk to groups and I say, doing an hour a day physical activity, I get different responses. Oh my God, an hour a day? 1 hour out of 24, 72 pounds? Pretty good deal, right? So think about it. What do they do? Interestingly, walking is a huge, huge behavior in the National Weight Control Registry. But because they're doing an hour a day, they usually combine walking with some form of planned activity. Yes, they spread it out during the day. Doesn't matter if you do it all at once or spread out. But the thing is, they have made physical activity a very important part of their lives. Now, I wish I could tell you that these people learn to love exercise, and they come back and say, oh my God, I love it so much. In fact, they don't. But what they say is, it's a part of my day, I do it every day, and I would miss it if I didn't do it, but can't really tell you I love it, so okay? You may not get to the point of loving exercise, but you can get to the point of where it's part of your day. If you want to look in steps, we actually put pedometers on these people. They get about 11,000 steps per day, and we compared that to people entering our weight management programs, and you can see it was about half. So they have substantially increased their physical activity. If you're not prepared to substantially increase your physical activity and be active every day, you probably aren't going to be successful in keeping weight off. About 9% of these 10,000 people report keeping their weight off with little or no physical activity. So it is possible, but do you want to be in that 91% or that 9%? Where's the better odds? And you can see here that here the average is about 60 minutes a day, but there are some people that have to get 90 minutes a day. There are some that get less. Here's where there's a lot of individual variation. We're very interested in understanding why. So I can't tell you where you're going to end up. I can tell you that shooting for 60 minutes a day is probably a good starting point, and you can adjust that up or down, but you're going to have to be active every single day, and we'll talk about how you do that. You have to build it into your routine. So where do they find time for all this physical activity? Well, it's funny. People say, I don't have time for an hour a day. I've got to watch my favorite TV programs, right? So one of the things they do is they watch less TV. And the average is about 28 hours a week. And you can see these people watch some TV, but they've learned to do a trade-off in terms of time. And time management is a big part of this. So if you want to find an hour a day for activity, where are you going to find it? Well, maybe you can find it by giving up your TV. You know, we talk about TV viewing like food. Look for quality, not quantity. I'll bet you every single one of you, there's at least 2 half-hour programs you could give up and say, those aren't so great. Watch the ones you love, give up the other one. Same way in the quality of food. Go for the high quality, give up the other one. These things work. They have a high level of dietary restraint. What does that mean? Simply means they pay attention to what they eat. People said, these national weight control people, they're screwed up. They're psychologically bizarre. So we went out and measured it, and we did every psychological test we could find. The only difference between them and any other population, high level of dietary restraint, they're paying attention to what they eat. That's probably a price you're going to pay. Frequent self-weighings. They weigh themselves periodically. We ask them, and they say, well, how the heck am I going to know if I'm gaining weight if I don't weigh myself? So frequent weighing is a good strategy, but they don't just frequently weigh. They all have a goal, a range. Usually it's 2 to 3 pounds. So if you're in that range, great. If you're not, it's not, oh my God, what am I going to do? It's, okay, plan A goes into effect. If my weight is this is what I have to do. So you have to plan ahead. You know, the mother-in-law's coming. Oh my God, I got to do this and this and this. You got to plan ahead. Use weight as an early warning system. You got to have a plan. So 75% weigh once a week, 44 once a day. We are fine with weighing. Weigh whatever's comfortable with you. But if you want to monitor your weight, fine. Some people, years later, say, I've got it. I'm so in tune with my body, I don't have to weigh myself, I know. But to start out, weigh yourself. Maintaining dietary consistency. These people don't take weekends off. They don't take holidays off. They're pretty stringent. They're pretty structured throughout. And they eat breakfast. Almost all of them eat breakfast 7 days a week. So these are the characteristics we see. What leads to weight gain? Well, we find that when people increase their dietary fat or decrease their physical activity, they tend to gain weight. Okay? This is what they do. Now, on average, the population in the U.S. is gradually getting heavier. Population in the National Weight Control Registry is getting heavier. So even though they're keeping a lot of weight off, they're still fighting sort of the environmental influences that are making us all become obese. So they're susceptible to the same environmental forces that the rest of us are. So here's what they do, to summarize. They eat a low-fat diet, but they pay attention to calories. They self-monitor. They actually self-monitor their physical activity. We had an engineer who told me he had kept track of everything he's eaten for 30 years, and he offered to send that to me, but I declined. I said, I believe you. So you don't have to go that far, but you do have to pay attention to what you're doing. How are you going to know what you're doing unless you monitor it? Behavioral consistency, structure, day in and day out, dietary restraint, pay attention to what you eat, breakfast, and I think the big one is high levels of physical activity. This is compensating for the biological effect, and you can make it a part of your life every day. So if you look, this is just a little cartoon to show why I think physical activity is so important. There's a theory that there's a sort of threshold of physical activity. If you're above that, to the right of the bar, your physiology is working very well. You're very good at matching intake and expenditure. If you're to the left of the bar, you're not. You can see as in the unregulated zone, as physical activity goes down, food intake actually goes up. So if you're down to the left of that bar, very inactive, essentially your physiology isn't working well. If you're above that line, your body's working with you rather than against you. So I think that's the reason. People talk about, well, exercise only burns so many calories. It's not the calories it burns. If you're active every day, your metabolism is working the way it was meant to be. Your appetite regulation is working the way it was meant to be. It's not the calories. It's how exercise makes your metabolism work the way it was meant to work. Our bodies are meant to move. When we stop moving, bad things go wrong. You can fix it by moving. So if you look at generations ago, when we were chasing the fast food out in the wilderness, we had to expend a lot of energy, and our goal was to eat enough, and our physiology is geared toward eating. All of our body says, eat, eat, eat. Well, what happens is we've lowered our physical activity, so now we're trying to food restrict to match a low level of energy expenditure. We're not good food restrictors. We're eaters. Our physiology is set up to eat. So what happens when we're down here with the low level of activity and a high appetite is we gain weight. And as we gain weight, our body gets bigger and it increases our energy expenditure. So if we want to be up at the high end, you can simply get there by being physically active or by being obese. So there's kind of a trade-off. Two options. You want to be obese or you want to be physically active. And to get rid of those pounds, you have to add the physical activity. I'm going to skip this one. And so you can see here that if you, in the middle one, if your intake and expenditure goes down, what you're trying to do is match that low expenditure by food restriction. In the third set of bars, if you increase your activity, now you're back up to an amount of food that may not be very different than what you were eating before. So this increased physical activity allows you to eat a diet that's manageable. Now, in the remainder of the time, I want to switch from the what to do to how to do it. So what we've learned is that it's between the ears that's most important. And we talk about the mindset. And in our programs, we heavily emphasize the mindset. And we see it as the greatest predictor of who's going to be successful. You've got to have a good plan. So you've got to know what to do. But we've, for years, given people good diet and exercise programs, and they haven't succeeded. And what we've learned is that the mindset is something that we can really help do that. So we'll talk about motivation, positivity, willpower, and the environment. So we talk a lot about finding your why. When people want to lose weight, we ask them why you want to lose weight. And in general, the first answer we get has nothing to do with what's really important to them. So we do an exercise we call peel the onion. So I ask you why you want to lose weight. Well, I've got a class reunion, I want to fit into the dress. Why? Why? And if you do that, you actually get down to some pretty interesting reasons. This is a huge behavior change we're asking you to do. You've got to know deep down why it's important to you. And if we help you figure out what we call your purpose in life and why losing weight and changing your behavior fits with that purpose, huge motivation forward. We found this as an incredibly strong predictor of success. Expect success. So many people come into our program and say, Dr. Hill, I'm coming into your program, but I know it's not going to work. I don't like to exercise. I'm not going to lose weight. I'm going to regain it back. Well, guess what? If you come in with that attitude, you fail. What we've learned, you can actually teach people to be positive. Granted, some people are harder than others, and we've had a few that we're not there yet, but unless you're expecting success. Here's a great example my colleague Holly Wyatt uses. People say, oh, God, exercise, sweating, I hate it, it's awful. And Holly says, exercise is your fat crying. All right? That's what I mean by positivity, okay? Make healthy decisions automatic. This is key. If you get up every day and say, okay, what am I going to do to exercise today? You're toast. You're not going to do it. If you get up and say, today's Thursday I walk with Joan at noon, now you've got automatic. We think of willpower as a muscle. All day long you use your willpower and it gets tired. And that's why at the end of the day, you meant to come home and have a healthy dinner, but your boss yelled at you, you fought with your boyfriend, and you come home and you say, I'm out of willpower, I'm ordering the pizza, right? So if you make behaviors automatic, you have more willpower left at the end of the day. And finally, you have to create a supportive environment, both physically and socially. So we start with motivation. You got to find the right motivation. So I go around, people say, oh my God, this environment is causing obesity. It's terrible. And so I go around and ask people, well, how about if you give up your big screen TVs or your automobiles? No, or computers. I don't want to do that. So yes, we've created an environment that's promoting obesity, but it's also an environment we like. Come on, we like it. We like to have driving through. We like having all these different foods. We like our big screen TVs. So why would we ever want to change anything? And what we've found is that digging deep into an individual and helping you understand your motivation to change is key, because it's too easy to give up when things get hard if you don't know your real motivation. And that might be oftentimes with women, we find it's to be a better mother. What they really want is to be a better mother or be a better caregiver to their spouse. Sometimes it's to be a better CEO or whatever. Doesn't matter what your motivation is, only matters that you figure out what it is and get it. So we talk about alignment of purpose. Are there connections between your lifestyle goals and what you want in life? Are you behaving more in concert with your inner self? And how does wellness fuel your purpose and inner self? This sounds like woo-woo kinds of stuff, but I will tell you, it's critical. And we get people in tears when they understand why and that's a good thing, why they really want to do this. So purpose and alignment is really important. And in the National Weight Control Registry, they do this. A lot of people in the National Weight Control Registry change jobs. They get jobs in the exercise industry. They become dietitians. So they've aligned their purpose in life with their behaviors. I laugh sometimes. Many of them change spouses. That's not something we're out promoting, but the idea is, that guy didn't support me, and this is the way I want to live my life, and he's got to go and move on to the next one. So they make some big life changes. So again, purpose in the National Weight Control Registry keeps them on track. I'll give you a couple of examples. The one woman that said, she was very spiritual, and she said, look, every day I've devoted an hour to prayer, meditation. She began walking during that time. She never missed it, not because of the walking, but because of that was something important to her. Another one, the woman that met her mom every Tuesday for coffee. It was just something she would never miss. They started walking rather than sitting for coffee. So it's tying these purpose and behaviors together. That's the way you keep them off. And again, some even recreated themselves. New job, new home. They moved to active neighborhoods. They make some heroic changes to align their behaviors with their purpose in life. Now, positivity is a big one for us. So what is positivity? It's a range of emotions: appreciation, love, joy, hope, amusement. But positivity is very important. We like to deliver our weight management programs in groups, and one of the things that the groups do is to help bring people along. You can get a couple of negative people in the group. When we at first said, oh God, they're poisoning the whole group, but what we found is just the opposite. The group would actually bring them around. And that's why I think group weight loss is absolutely the most effective way to do it. But unless you go into this expecting success, you aren't going to work. Now, you got to have a plan. You can't just go and be hopeful without a plan. But if you have a good plan, positivity really adds a lot. Making healthy choices automatic. We talk about habits, rituals, and routines. And of the important ones, rituals are really important. That's like the woman and her mom. That was a ritual. That had more meaning than anything else. If you can hook your behaviors to rituals, that's great. But things that are automatic. So again, my colleague Holly Wyatt says, I never go down the chip aisle. Only bad things happen in the chip aisle in the grocery store. So it takes a lot less willpower to not go down than to go down it and not have those chips jump in your basket. So we work a lot with helping people develop rituals and routines and actually giving you ones to do and practice. Think about it. You've got years of old habits, of bad habits. What we've got to do is we've got to get rid of the bad habits by not using them, and we've got to develop the good habits, and that takes time. These aren't quick. And the same way on moving. There's so many routines, rituals, and habits you can do. Always stand or walk on the cell phone. You never sit down with a cell phone in your hand. They're just simple little things that become automatic. You don't have to think about them. So rituals, routines, habits, critical to save willpower. Addressing the environment. You've talked about the physical environment. You've got to, if there's not good food in your house and you're hungry, what are you going to eat? So you have control over what's in your house. You get hungry at 9 p.m., well, you might drive out and get something, but it's more likely you're going to eat something that's there. Plan ahead. Know that. Have an environment that's there. Look at your physical activity environment. Do you have places to walk, things to do? But also your social environment. You are affected by those people around you. In our classes, we force people to join new social networks. We force you to go out and join a volleyball league or a cooking league, and we talk about the people that are around you. Now, if it's your family that's not helping, you can't divorce your family, but there's some things you can do. But what you want to do is spend time around those people who are doing things that you're doing. The one guy, he said, I gained 50 pounds. I went out every evening with my buddies for beer and pizza. I lost 50 pounds. I knew if I went back into that environment, I was going to gain the weight back. So he didn't give up his friends, but he started hanging out. I think he joined a volleyball league or something. So we actually help people see that you've got to change your social environment. You behave the way people around you behave. And I just said that. Now, here's some of the funny stuff. I wrote, when Biggest Loser came out many, many years ago, I wrote an editorial and I said, I think this is the worst thing ever. We're now filming a reality show at our center, so be careful. Never say never. So we were approached. How many know the ABC's Extreme Weight Loss show? Anybody's watched that? So they approached us, and they saw our center, and they wanted to film there. And we had a lot of angst over this, but last season, it was filmed in part in our center. These people come and spend 90 days in our center. The deal, if you don't know the show, is this 1 week of transformation. It's not a contest, it's not a winner. It's one person's year-long story. So they spend 90 days at our center. Over the year, they lose 50% of their body weight, 40 to 50% of their body weight. They come in at, between 300 and 500 pounds, and they lose 50% of their body weight. And it's just been amazing to me. I've learned so much from the TV show. They lose 100 pounds in 90 days, many of them. And we measure all these people medically and everything else. And I will tell you, at the end of the year, every single one of them, if you ask them what's great about the year, weight loss is never the first thing they mention. It's in there, but what they say is, I've gotten my life back, my relationships are better. It's between the ears stuff that really is a payoff. Now, every single one of them coming in would have said, weight loss is the number one thing I want. And when people coming to our groups, they say, I want weight loss. If we try to tell them, we're going to give you mental fitness and better relationships, they won't sign up. They want weight loss. And so we've learned that. And at the end, I will guarantee you, almost all these people say, what's better about my life is not the weight loss. Yes, the weight is gone off, but I've got a better overall quality of life. So we've learned from the show, what I've learned is I think we can set the bar higher. I think we can expect more for behavioral weight loss, but it's what you put into it. This is called extreme weight loss because these people put an extreme effort into it. You can't put a moderate effort into it and get an extreme outcome. But if people are willing to put an extreme effort in, you can get an extreme output. Now, Holly and I just wrote a book called The State of Slim, and all this that I'm talking about is in there. So if you want to learn more about it, you can do that. We're now merging our programs, the State of Slim program, with the extreme weight loss. So in October, we're actually doing 1-week boot camps at our place, and then people sign up for a 1-year program. So we're trying to combine these tools from the National Weight Control Registry, from extreme weight loss, from our own research to move the needle on weight loss. I think we can do better. Maybe you can't do 50%. Maybe you need to be on TV to do 50%. But I think we can get a lot closer to that without having to be on TV. So we're pulling all these tools. Our programs start out with everything we've learned from the National Weight Control Registry. We've incorporated all this. We've now learned from a TV show, who knew? And we've learned from our patients over time. So what I think is that, I didn't get a lot of time to talk about this, but I think a year is a good start, but I think it takes 2 to 3 years before people undergoing obesity treatment get to the point where it's more likely they're going to keep it off than to regain it. And what we're trying to do with our programs is to extend those so that we can actually provide 2 to 3 year treatment for these people. It takes a long time to develop new habits and new routines and to get your metabolism fixed. So we've got to quit thinking of it as short term. We've got to quit focusing on weight loss. I almost think it doesn't matter how you lose weight. We get you to a program that you can live with forever. If you don't have a plan that gives you a program you can live with forever, it's not a complete program. We address many other aspects of wellness that I didn't talk about. If you're not sleeping well, believe me, you're not going to be as successful at weight loss. You're not going to be as successful as wellness. If you're not managing stress, and I'm not talking about getting rid of stress. Stress is a growth opportunity, but it's how you manage stress. So we talk about resiliency. We talk about relationships. We even talk about financial health, because it's a huge, huge place for stress for people. So people come in losing weight, and we fought it for a while, and we tried to tell them this other stuff was important. Now we bring them in and give them weight loss while we give them all these other things. And that's why we really need a longer-term treatment, probably 2 to 3 years. I think there are different stages of maintenance, and we're working on that. And I think the end stage is like these people in the National Weight Control Registry. They actually want to teach others and be coaches and help others and get jobs in this area. So I think we need a staged approach to maintenance. You do need to focus on physical activity and food, but just giving you a good plan, we know not a lot of people succeed. We have to give you a plan you can live with forever. And in maintenance, what we like to do is have you focus on the physical activity and on your weight. Think about it. If you're looking at food, physical activity, and weight, 2 out of 3 of those you can measure very accurately. Physical activity, we can measure pretty accurately. Weight, we can measure pretty accurately. We can't measure food intake worth a darn. So what we focus on is hit a physical activity goal, monitor your weight, and now adjust your food intake as necessary. So we don't give you calorie goals at all. We teach you how to eat smart and how to adjust based on, and the weighing is your feedback. You're weighing to see if you're maintaining weight. So to summary, weight loss maintenance is hard, and it's rare. Most people who lose weight still regain it. But we have seen so many people, including those in the National Weight Control Registry, that are successful. I guarantee you it's doable, but it requires hard work, and it probably requires a lifetime commitment to this. If you're substantially overweight, you're probably always going to be paying a price for that. But when we ask people in the National Weight Control Registry if it gets easier over time, and the answer is no. But we ask them year by year how likely it is that they're going to keep weight off. And it's at about this 3-year point where people tell us their confidence in keeping the weight off is very high. So it hasn't got easier, but now they know they can do it. And the other thing, 97% of these people tell us that their quality of life is much higher after losing weight than before. So I guess my message is it's hard, but it's worth it. You're fighting biology, you're fighting the environment. You have to have 2 things. You have to know what to do, and there are a lot of what to do's out there, but you also need to know the how to do it, the mindset. And this is something we don't see a lot of out there, and we feel like more and more it's the key to long-term success, not short-term success. You don't need any of this to lose weight. You need it to keep it off over the long term. And the key is really finding a lifestyle that you can maintain forever. So thank you, good luck, and I hope you've learned something from the National Weight Control Registry.